Welcome to Mediumship Moments with Kym Durham. Join her as she shares her personal journey with mediumship, connects with your loved ones, and discusses topics dealing with spirituality.
Hi, everyone. I'm your host, Kym Durham. I'm a second-gen psychic medium, and I'd like to welcome you to my podcast, Mediumship Moments. I'd like to give you a little bit about my background. I am the second child of 4. I have 3 brothers, bigger, and biggest in the order of their stature. I grew up in a lovely little town in Woodbury Heights, New Jersey, with a mom and dad, Robert and Joan. My mom started the business, PSI, Psychic Studies and Investigations. She was quite a pioneer in her own right, and I'll talk more about her in a little bit. But it was an interesting background. I teased that I thought all moms could talk to dead people, but apparently not. She was my first mentor and made sense of this ability for me without making it frightening. She would encourage me to share what was happening in my experiences. So let me just break it down. Psychics perceive energy. I can perceive energy on people, places, and then see energy of opportunity. And mediums receive energy from those that have crossed over. And I believe all mediums are tad psychic, but psychics aren't mediums. And I'll break down what that's like in a future episode. But nonetheless, mom made sense of this. So at the age of 4, I started to see people in my room. And you see, my mom had a business. She had clients. She built a home office. Not many women were doing that back in 1974. But nonetheless, the angels that showed up with her clients sometimes would pop up in my room upstairs. And I remember the first time I saw this woman. She had a blue crinkly dress, how I described it to my mom. And she had white hair, and she just looked like, I guess, a grandmother. And that was the first time that my mom realized I had the ability. Then at the age of 9, I started to see things happen before they happened. And what do I mean? We were in the car, and I was driving with my dad. We had the Kingswood Estate. And for all those young people out there, that would be the SUV before the SUV. Nonetheless, Dad and I were driving along. I saw a dog run out in front of the station wagon. And I kind of yelled and said, "Dad, stop, dog." He slammed on the brakes, you know. The next thing you know, he gets out and he looks around. There's no dog. Gets back in the car, and about a half an hour later, in fact, a dog ran out in front of us. So my dad gets out, and he avoids the dog, and he gets back in the car, and I think he mumbled something like, "Oh, Christ, I think I got 2 of you in the house." And then at the age of 11, I started to see energy on people that equated to something to do with their health. So having 3 brothers, there was, how shall I say, always some kind of ruckus going on in the house. Somebody was breaking something. Somebody wasn't happy. Someone took something of someone's. Anyway, during one of those times that I was probably in the melee, I sought refuge down in the office. My mom had a lovely secretary. She was like a second mom to me, Marie. And if you could just picture this, a woman who's about 5'2", maybe. She was, fluffy. That's how I describe everybody after the pandemic. Had well endowed, smoked Pall Malls. Hello, darlings. She was from South Philadelphia, and I loved every bone in her body. But anyway, I cut through the office waiting room to get away from my 3 brothers. And as I cut through the office, there was a woman sitting there. She had this orangey hue emanating from her arm and her chest. It kind of looked like a salt lamp, if you're familiar with what that color looks like. And it took me, by surprise a bit. So hanging out with Marie, and after my mom had finished up for the day, I went into her studio and I asked her, what was that I was seeing? And so my mom told me that woman had had a major surgery, a mastectomy. She had had breast cancer 9 months earlier, and kind of made sense of the healing that I was seeing on that woman. So those were the things that my mom would do to make the experiences that I was having at a young age make sense. I remember the first time I saw an aura God help me, U.S. history, Mr. Parker. I was not a fan of history, I have to tell you, back in the day, but now I very much enjoy it. I have a funny story to tell you about my bright idea of going to Gettysburg, but we'll save that for another episode. But anyway, I'm in his class, and how shall I say it? In school, I was a good student. I majored in Latin, going on to a career of either medicine or nursing. And but I was sitting in his class, totally bored, and I'm sitting there watching him sit at the desk, and I started to see this light emanate around him. It kind of get brighter and lighter, and kind of ebb and flow. And I was really shocked. I mean, I had no idea what I was saying. And sure enough, I went back home and spoke to my mom about it, and she'd always say, "Tell me more, Kimmy." And I did. And here she explained what I was seeing. I was seeing an aura on Mr. Parker, which was kind of interesting. The first time I saw it, I ended up seeing it on a teacher I really didn't like. The feeling was kind of mutual. Every chance I had, I would cut his class in for a Latin meeting or a student council meeting. But anyway, that was my mom making sense of this. So she was my first mentor. She took me on paranormal investigations, and it was really, really interesting. So I, continued, graduated from high school, and went into my own career path of healing. I was always drawn to the medical world, and became went to college. I took a lot of classes. I love to learn. I'm a student of every day. If you learn something new, it's a good day. So I went on to school, and I graduated from Lean-Fold and went on for additional schooling, and became a registered nurse, first assist. It's an RNFA. So what that is somebody who's clinically able to circulate and scrub both cardiothoracic and orthopedic cases. So I worked at Penn Presby, loved it, absolutely loved it. Still stay in touch with my colleagues. They're there. We used to go out for liver rounds. That's what we called happy hour, but truly it's more like retirement parties now. But anyway, I had experiences in the operating room. When I was a nurse extern working towards my registered nurse, I could see things. So, and it would happen both as a student, as a nurse, and as I was clinically as a nurse. I remember distinctly being a nurse extern at West Jersey Voorhees, a lovely hospital. Just the things I got to learn there and experience were just wonderful foundations, med-surg nursing. And truly, for all the nurses out there that do med-surg, God love you, because that's like the battleground. You can do med-surg, you can do anything. So I was up at the nurse's station, and I remember a patient, Mr. Smith, let's just say, in room 10, was supposed to be leaving out the front door, discharged the next day. But I kept seeing these energies coming in and out of his room. Now, I was in a bit of a quandary. Do we move the crash cart closer to his room, which you can't do? But I had just told the nurses to keep an eye on him. And sure enough, Mr. Smith ended up coding that evening and earning his wings. So I didn't want to be known as the angel of death. Somebody had made the remark, "Isn't your mom a psychic medium?" And not that I wasn't proud. I just, again, had to be really careful with this ability of seeing, I call them your angels, your loved one, your spiritual posse around people. And let me tell you, the hospital is hopping with them. So I loved what I did. My daughter said when she was little, my mom fixes broken bones and broken hearts. And sure enough, I loved it. But I had a tragic accident. I believe somebody had a bigger plan for me, and it took that tragic accident to take me out of the operating room. So after 3 surgeries, 6 years of healing, I went on to study with world-renowned mediums. I've studied with everyone from James Van Prague, to Colin Bates, Mavis Patilla, Tony Stockwell. John Holland and Janet Nahavik are my salt of the earth type of teachers. I treated becoming a psychic medium very much like CEUs of a nurse. We had to go on for additional training. And even though my mom was world acclaimed in this field, I had to, find my own path. And so I studied quite a bit. And finally, after almost 4.5 years of study, did I want to venture out on, in this field. And I started doing mediumship circles, if you will, at local yoga studios, different things like that, where, I do it for free, just to hone my craft. It's an amazing field. Every day I learn something different. It's, being a medium. One of my favorite things about being a medium is that every day's different. That's what I loved about being a nurse is that, in the operating room, I never knew what was going to happen in front of us. Now, well, that's sometimes I did. And one of the surgical techs I worked with, Mike, I loved to pieces, was amazing. He said, when Miss Kim tells you to have that plan B together, you better have that plan B together. I had a gut feeling about certain things. And sometimes I could, know or have a gut feeling that things were going to go awry. So as a good circulating nurse, you better make sure, a scrub nurse, you better make sure you have the plan B and even plan C. I enjoyed being a medium. Like I said, it's different. People ask me if I miss being a nurse, and I miss my colleagues. They were amazing people at Penn Presby. Truly, truly, it was an honor to work with them. I learned more from surgical techs. Miss Sietta, Miss Fifi, you're amazing, and I'm thankful for those life lessons you taught me in the operating room. Every day's different. I help heal people in a different way now, and that healing, that nursing background, I really comes into play with me being a medium in that I can compartmentalize, when you're in the operating room and things are going awry, which they don't always happen, but some things do, that you've got to have that focus to stay at that moment hyper focused on the task at hand. And sometimes that communication with your loved ones is kind of like that for me, to be hyper focused. But I tell people I help heal in a different way now through my mediumship. Now, work with clients all over the world. I work with police cases all over the United States, working on murder cases, missing persons. I work with therapists who help use me adjunctively. I've worked with soldiers for PTSD in that department for healing. I work with my senior clients. There's a wonderful group called Hope. Lonnie is the head, one of the people that help run it. And those are for our senior partners who've lost their partners. I work with parents who've lost children. I am honored to sit in front of people who tried to connect with your loved ones. I can never guarantee who's on the spiritual plane. And sometimes those that are in your spiritual posse are people that you never met on the physical plane, but help overlook and help take care of you on the other side, shall I say. So as I referenced earlier, spiritual posse, as there are those on the other side that are assigned to us, and sometimes there are family members. I often tell people that when we cross, we never cross alone, meaning when we cross over or die. There's always that, how shall I say it, your spiritual posse that comes to help you cross over. There's usually 2 to 4 people that I see. Like I had seen earlier with Mr. Smith, there was at least 2 to 4 people, energies, spirits, entering his room that evening. They're usually there, not usually, they're there no matter where you cross. Whether you put up a heck of a battle or you cross quickly and unexpectedly, there's always someone from the spiritual side there to help you cross over. I lovingly tease they're there to get you fitted for your first set of angel wings and get you off to angel boot camp. And then after the angel boot camp, they show me that they throw one heck of a party. And my mom actually had a near-death experience and talked about that. And I'll go into that in another episode about my mom. But just know that these guides are here to help us. They leave signs in some way to let you know they're here. People talk about, and you never need, as far as I'm concerned, you never need a medium to tell you, to confirm what that sign is. If it speaks to your heart, then it's your loved ones, communicating. I have a heart-shaped little tchotchke in my office, my studio, that one of my mom's clients gave me. Lisa, she was a longtime client, and she's since earned her wings. But in that little vessel, I have all the dimes, nickels, quarters that I find on the floor after clients leave. And in fact, I was just cleaning my office yesterday, giving it, spring cleaning. And I have one side of my office where I do my Zoom sessions, and I moved the desk, and sure enough, underneath the leg of the desk, I don't know how it got there because it was on top of the carpet, was a dime. And I kind of chuckled, and I was like, okay, now for me, it's my mom. totally. But I took that dime and I put it in the heart-shaped little tchotchke I have in the secretary. And every once in a while, I take them out and show people on my social media. Here's the collection, because I never know. That's one way that they let you know. But I hope it brings you some comfort to know that your loved ones are with you. It's kind of like they're just next door. It's kind of like a medium to me is that I am standing over the threshold between the physical world and the spiritual world. I can hear a radio station and see a television station most people can't. Now, yes, this is a born ability. It's an ability. Everybody's got a strength, right? Some of you are really good at accounting, not me. Some people are really good with photography, something creative, right? I just happen to be good at this. And Duke University has done studies on the pineal, I think it's pineal, tomato gland, which sits right below or to the ethmoid space right behind your nose. They believe, they've shown in studies that it follows the maternal line, and those people that have a higher level of this hormone show a higher ability. And that's the way I look at this. But like any ability, right? The more you practice, the better you're going to get. So if you stand up there and you're at the gym and you're trying to hit the three throw, it's going to take practice. It's going to take time and dedication. And so I've made a point of making sure that I've studied, and I continue to study every other year. I study with a medium. I just came back from Arizona. I worked out there with Tina Escudo. I met her some years ago when we were up at Omega studying with James Van Praagh. She does amazing work out in Arizona with healing. And she uses different techniques for changing people's energy fields. It's something similar to Reiki. In fact, I'm a science geek, right? I'm very much worked in the vivarium at Penn for a wee bit. And so I love research. And research is now showing the correlation between areas in my brain that show a higher I use a mammalian portion of my brain that most people don't. The hormone associated with this, it follows the maternal line. So my grandmother, good old Margaret, used to read tea leaves. I want to say she didn't quite read. She was a tea drinker. There would be tea leaves at the bottom of her cup, and she'd kind of look at them and, say one or two things. But she was far too busy trying to rear two children to use this as an ability, that's something that she could use as a profession. She kind of set it aside. But I just wanted to give you an idea of how this occurs in people scientifically. But anybody can be intuitive, psychic, intuitive, same difference. We all have gut feelings. I'm sure, the hair on the back of your head, raises when you're walking out down a street somewhere and you're like, maybe I should turn around and see who's behind me. You should always listen to your gut. So if you are interested in studying with someone, I'll bring up in another episode. I'd love to have one of my mentors join us and talk about how you can hone this ability. I'm not the only one that can do this. We all work in a different, how shall I say, life library. Like when my mom would have clients sit with her, she would see a baby cradle and see a blue or pink blanket on that cradle and know that person was going to have a baby boy or girl. I see it differently. For the very rare times I was in the nursery, which was usually August and September, when a lot of babies are born after the holidays, shall we say, I would see the actual swaddling of the blanket, that pink or blue stripe, and I would see the baby bottle, and it would either have a blue cap or a pink cap. And so those are my life libraries. So my mom could never, even though she was my first mentor, her symbols were based upon her life experiences. Mine are based upon my life experiences. So when clients sit with me, it's very much, it's tapping into my medical or nursing background or my ability in sign language. Your angels will actually use sign language. You're like, my grandfather didn't know sign. Well, if he puts forth the hand signals of crossed over to me in ASL, that's his way of communicating to me that he had Alzheimer's. They tap into my experiences. If they show me Diamond Head, I know they want to talk about Hawaii. So I tease, it's kind of like charades with your angels, right? Mediumship to me is just a beautiful way to let us know that our loved ones who have crossed are still with us in some way. Now, are they here 24/7? No. Just like I'm shown, we're given a life plan and life lessons. We're given a spiritual plan as well. I often say if they're not with us during that session, they could be working on their spiritual plan. There's a reason why certain people on the other side are with us at certain times, whether that's in times of joy or times of sorrow or strife or opportunity. I often say our angels can put their foot in the door of opportunity. And so call upon them. Say, Mom, I actually put it out to my mom this year. I was like, all right, Joan. No, Joan owned her wings. It was actually 14 years this past April. And I said, all right, Mom, get your butt off the beach because I know that's where she'd be. I'd like to be doing bigger events this year. I'd like 4 of them. And sure enough, I'm doing 300 plus person events this year. So is it Mom? Is it my ability? I'd like to think it's a little bit of both, but just talk and set your attention deliberately outside. Speak out, with a voice that they can help. And usually it takes a little bit. I say a couple of days. And the next thing you'll know, something is popped in front of you. Like I had someone reach out to me saying, hey, Kym, would you be interested? We have a facility. There's, it accommodates 500 to 700 people. We'd love to have you. Boom. And that kind of stuff falls in your lap and you go, was it me? Was it my angels? Was it my loved ones? Like I said, I'd like to think that they're listening and helping us succeed and follow that life path, those journeys that we have, those life lessons, the reason why we're here. So part of this podcast is to give you an idea of what it's like to be me. And that's where the premise of the mediumship moments come from. So every episode, I'd like to leave you with a moment of mediumship or a mediumship moment. So I recently had a client on Zoom. She was a client from New Mexico. And during the session, she had 2 of her angels come forward. And it was quite remarkable because the things that they were showing me, I had never seen before. So again, it's adding to my life library. So her father came forward. He was a very muscular kind of looking man. Now, when your angels come forward, they always appear their best, right? Late 20s, early 30s. He just, he looked, he had the build of like, I don't want to say a total bodybuilder / wrestler kind of, And he came forward and he had a wreath of greens around his head, and he was bare chested, and he had like this white necklace on that had like a stone at the bottom, by his chest. And he had this bamboo skirt. I thought it was like a lei, but my client said, no, she remarked that it was bamboo. So her father was from the Maori tribe in New Zealand, and he was doing the haka dance, a dance that's, traditionally performed by men going to war. And here, her father was, slapping on his thighs, and he was putting his hands up, and it was just amazing to watch the way that he came forward. Now, during the reading, another woman appeared next to him. She was petite and, kind of robust in her build, but she had these amazing tattoos that on her chin that had like dots and lines and squiggly lines, kind of like a salamander. Well, this was my client's grandmother, her father's mother, which made sense to me because typically that's how they, you could have more maternal side showing up one session and more paternal. So her father, my client's father, and mother, my client's grandmother, were there. Now, the grandmother took me on this journey, and she took me up to this hill, and it was beautiful. It was like a cliff, and it was overlooking the ocean. There was the cliffs, and kind of reminded me of the Cliffs of Moher. If anybody's been there to Ireland, it's kind of what it looked like. And it was overlooking the water. And there was this house there. And it had, it was not huge, kind of looked, I don't want to say primitive. And she brought me into this house. Well, here, my client's grandmother was the chief of the Maori tribe. And this was known as the spirit house. This was her home. This is where all the spirits come from. So they, and when I was in the house, she pointed to these pictures on the wall. And here, those were descendants, previous chiefs and descendants of my clients from the Maori tribe. So I have yet to be to New Zealand. It looks absolutely gorgeous. Her father coming through, so proud of his daughter, his only daughter, and the work that she was doing here. And to know that her grandmother, the chief of the Maori tribe, was still looking over her. And the client could absolutely validate, because it's very visual to me. It's kind of like I have goggles on, virtual reality goggles, that they put me in that scene. So I kind of like was a drone view overlooking that cliff and the water and the spirit house. And so the client was validating all that I had seen and all that those angels were showing me. And so I it was quite a beautiful mediumship moment. It was a journey to a place I've never been to. I tease I don't get frequent flyer miles for all the wonderful places your angels take me, but it was just a beautiful mediumship moment. And again, that added to my life library. She took me to a place and showed me things that I had yet to experience.
Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe. See you next time for another episode of Mediumship Moments. If you enjoyed this episode of Kym's podcast, check her out on Instagram and TikTok at Kym Durham Medium.